So we will discuss today about the OSGi configurations.
Yeah.
Let me tell you the use case for that. So let's say, let me give you an example. We have an API, like any third-party API, which you have to connect to, and there is an URL, there is some username, password, API key, and API, something like that. Okay, some credentials you need to connect to that API. Now you will, of course, make an HTTP call to that to connect to that to make that call to that API. Now, one way is, of course, of course, you will write the backend code, but to read those URL and username password, whether you will prefer to hard code that in your code base or whether you want to make it as a part of some configuration. So of course, configuration is the best solution, not hard coding these things in the code is a good solution, because these sort of things where there are some private sort of things, some credentials, some endpoint. So these sort of things should be made as a part of configuration and not should be hard coded in the code. So what AEM provides us with the provision of OSGi configuration. Okay. So yesterday I created this OSGi configuration. So let me just show it to you. Okay. So this is where's my resume? Yeah, this one is the OSGi. So this one is the configuration. Okay. So basically, to create an OSGi configuration, the annotation we used is @object class definition. So I told you in AEM everything is simple class only, but we just use the required annotations to make it either a service or might either make it a configuration or either make it some other type of file. So here to make an configuration, we used object class definition. This is the annotation, and we gave the name of this configuration as Tojo configuration. Okay. And here we said attribute definition, and whatever values we want to be made as configurable, we pass it over here. Like here at that attribute definition, the name of this is API URL and the value will be URL. I will show you how this. Similarly, there is another attribute definition, then the username attribute definition pass. So this is a simple OSGi configuration that we have created. Now, once an OSGi configuration that you create, like this is the API URL, URL username password. Now you can refer this inside multiple services. Like here, one of my services, Tojo word service that we created. Okay. So here to refer it, we use @designate, then OCD. Again, OCD is the object class definition only. So OCD is equal to the name of the configuration dot class. And within the service, when you use @designate OCD, this configuration name, then in the init method means the initial method where you have the @activate, you will get the object of that configuration. So here I received the object of this configuration, and I assigned this object inside my local instance variable, this variable. Now let me create another method like public string get API details. Okay. Now to read the values, whatever will be inputted inside that configuration, we will use that. Let me say return dot API. What was the name? So the name is URL. Okay, so this name we will use URL. Okay, similarly, let me put some dots in the middle. Tojo config dot the URL username. Config dot password. Okay. Why is this giving some issue? URL. Oh, sorry, I missed to put back. Okay, let me put some string in the beginning. Okay. Now what I can do is I can simply call this method inside my model. So here I have my model, and here I can call this method. So like the way we were previously calling. So again, I will create public string let me name it as get API, simple like get API. And we have already created that Tojo Word service instance over here. And I can directly call the get API details method over here, and that's what I wanted to return. Okay. Again, I'm showing you what I did is here I created the configuration. A configuration once created can be referred inside multiple services. Okay. Now here I have this configuration. We will be using at rate of the class definition, and for all the attributes whose value we want to make as configurable, we will use at rate attribute definition and the name here, like we have these different attributes. And once you create once you refer that OSGi configuration inside your service by using at the rate designate, you will get the object of that inside the activate method. And from here, you can read the object and further use it like simple way. Okay. Now, if I will build this code base, if I will go, here I am. Okay. So, maven filling install -p auto install bundle. Okay. So just wait till then. Let me open my this. Okay. So here, if I open the page, okay, so my code has just been deployed. So it takes for a minute for the server to start up. Okay. So if I will go over here, okay, and Tojo, and here the page we will use, or any page like this one we can use anything. Okay. So here, let me just remove all the other components. Okay, so here I have this. Let me remove this for now. And let me just simply place my AEM word component. So sorry, Tojo word component. So here I have what happens? Yeah, it's over here. Now what we can do inside the CRX-TE, we can refer it. CRX/TE. I can call this method. So if I will go over here, inside the Tojo and my components, and where is my component? Will be somewhere below. Okay, Tojo one. So if I will go over here and let me just call it. Okay, so I will call it over here. Here are the details that let me call it at the top. So when I will call it by the method name. So what is the method name? It is API, get API. So here it will be API. Okay, so if I will save it, if I will run it, let me just run it. Okay, so it says API details as after that it printed nothing because we created the configuration, but we didn't give any values to it. Okay. So one way is to give the values. We have a console. I told you about that console. There is a system console. Okay. So there is a system console which is an admin console. Only admin user can log in. So these are very secure properties. Okay, so that is why you can provide the values from here. If you will go over here, you get the third option. Below the OSGi, you get the third option, that is configuration. If you will go below the configuration, here you can see your configuration. What was the name of your configuration? It was Tojo configuration. So let me just search this Tojo configuration. Here you can see, here is your configuration. And if I will open it, as of now, it does not have any value. Let me just input. Let's say the API URL is like any URL, www.abc.com. Okay, the username is abc.username and abc.password. Okay, so let me just save it. And if I will refresh my page, you will see those values. Yeah, you can see these values are getting picked up. If you change it now, If you change it, in the value to something different like abcd.com, abc and abcd.password, and let me save it and let me refresh it. And here you would see the updated values over here as well. Okay, so since this was a password, that is why maybe it was showing like this. Okay, so these are the OSGi configuration which you can, of course, which should not be hard coded. Something which you think that you wanted to change on fly, whose value you wanted to change on fly. Let's say you have like the same example. You have the API URL, you pay password and username. Now these things, of course, uh, you want hard code in the code, and sometime maybe in some of the maybe during in the middle these value may get changed, like the third party say that okay, my password has been changed. Now if you have to change that, if it has been hard coded in your code base, then it would be issue for you, then because you have to redeploy your whole code by changing that password. Okay, so that is an issue. So that just because of that, we make it as an OSGi configuration. We make it as an OSGi configuration, and the values of this can be changed at any point in time through our this console, OSGi configuration console. This is our configuration where all the configurations are available. Means rest all are Adobe's configuration, and we have created this as our own configuration. Okay. Now, one thing here is that you see that after we deployed our code, we have to supply these values, we have to input these values inside this OSGi configuration. So the first time also the values were not there and it was printing as blank, and we have to provide these values. Now there's an alternative to this where you can provide the default values. Here you get the default option. You can see here, if you want to provide some default value, let's say your URL is Google, you wanted to connect to Google API.com. Okay, and username is Google username. Again, password is like Google. Okay. Now, what will happen? The first time when you will deploy your code, it will take up these values. So, if I will deploy my code now, so what will happen is I actually have to restart my this as well. But what happened? Let me just remove these as well. Okay, because these are what I provided. If I will remove this and will save this and let the code also get deployed. Okay, the code is deployed, and let me, I think I have to redeploy it. Okay, why is it too slow? Okay, it is saving. Yes, parallelly. Let me also redeploy my code. So what will happen is I do not have any default configured values provided through this OSGi configuration, but I am providing the default values through my code. Now, if I will refresh, let me just see if I will open that Pojo configuration, and if I will open it, okay, let me just refresh it. Okay. Why did it not get the values? Let me just redeploy my code. I am redeploying. And also refresh my page. Okay, let me just see. Okay, I think the default values are not getting picked. I think we are doing something wrong. Okay, default value. Default value. And here we can provide, I think, like this. Let me just do it in this. Just do it in this way. Okay, Google API and as username, and supply the same default password over here. Let's just put this code. I think this one will work. Okay. Okay, let me just refresh it now. And parallelly also refresh my okay, so changes are getting. It is not taking my default values. Just a minute. Default values. Let me just check the other default values. This should default value. Okay, let me just remove this. Okay, let me just read it file. I'm waiting the right deployment, yes. So I gave the default values over here, and I hope this should work. Refresh it now. So basically, what I'm trying to do is instead of applying the values from like I am trying to get the default values from my local code base, and then of course at runtime I can change the values at any time. That we already saw how we can change the value. I'm just trying to supply the default value. It still not did not pick up. Okay, let me just change something. It is taking this. Is my code getting properly deployed or not? Let me do my one clean. Okay, so I'm just cleaning all and then I want see what is happening. Let's do that again. So I provided the default value. This is yes. This way only we provide the default values. The default values. Here we are reading these values. I still have to. Oh, okay. I think I got the problem. I think I have. What happens is these OSG configurations get cached. So inside the system config, there would be an OSGi configuration for our this as well. Yeah, this one. This one would be causing the issue. Yes, let me just delete this and save it and again redeploy my code. But I have to also remove my code. Yeah. Yeah. Let me just open this. Okay, I think since my code was getting deployed, that is right. Just for a minute. Okay. Yeah, you can see now the changes are reflecting. So this was happening because, yeah, you can see Google API username and the password, and even the page also, if I will refresh, it should start picking up my latest value. Okay, let me just save this. I didn't save that. So if I will save it and if I will refresh it. So basically, you can see it started picking up my all the latest value, the one that I'm getting from my code. Now, if you want to change it, let's say your username got changed. Okay, so if I will change it over here, let's say new Google API. Okay, so I'm saying new Google. So once you have the default value set, that's okay. But later on, you can change those values at any time to this console. And this can only be opened by administrator user. So only administrator can change the value. You can see the username now got changed. Now it doesn't matter what value you are supplying from code base, but you can change it on runtime. Okay. So any number of services can refer these configuration. Like you have multiple services, we add all those services. Like it depends. In case most of the time a configuration is created for a service, but sometimes there are many services which wanted to use the same configuration. Let's say they are different. Means different, like different brands, like there are different brands running on the same. Let me give you an example. There are different websites, basically different websites of the same brands. Like one is the brand A, one is the brand B, and both the brand A and brand B comes under the same umbrella. Now they have the same configuration they have to use. It's just that the URL and all those things are different. So I will tell you how that is being done. Okay. Now, or let's take an example, like you have multiple environments. Again, the run mode things actually. Like say you have multiple brands or you have multiple environments. There is a prod, there is a QA, there is a dev. Now you have this configuration. You made this value configuration and you can change the values of this at runtime. But how would you change it? So you have to go to the system console config manager and there you can change it. Or you can provide the configuration default values over here inside the configuration. So there is another way through which you can provide the values, and that is based on the run modes only. So what happens? Like if you want these configuration values should to be picked up differently for different run mode. Let's say for prod environment you have a different username and different password, and for lower environment you have a different username and different password. Of course, that is an expected case. This will happen because your prod would have a different credentials to connect and your lower would have a different credentials to connect. Okay, those sort of scenario where you need to use different configuration based on different run modes. What we do is, if you go to system console, if you will go to your CRXD inside your Tojo folder, remember the system config. Here is the place where your configuration gets cached. If you go to your Tojo, here is your config. So you see there's many folders: config, config.author, config.prod, config.publish, config.state. So config, you can say these are all the if-else condition. Here, this is the default case. And the rest all are depending upon your run modes. What was our run mode? What was the run mode in our case? The author. And what were the other two names for our server? It was not this one. It was, let me just go to the server. Let me just go. Okay. So here, if I will go and open this startup.bat, okay. So here the run modes are prod, Bipin, and author. These three are the modes, or you can say the names of the server. Okay. So here, what I can do is I can copy. So let me just close this. Let me just copy this and let me simply paste it below your project folder. I'm pasting it and let me just save all and rename it to config dot what are the name of your run modes? Author dot prod. Okay, and this pin as well. Okay, let's say now I create the folder by using this config dot author dot. Now this folder also matches your run matches with the name of your run mode, and this folder also matches with the name of your run mode. But the best match folder is the first one that will be considered. So this one is the best match. Let's say if I create another folder. Let's say if I create another folder, let's say if I do paste and there rename it to config dot anything, like sequence can be anything. Prod dot author dot bipin. Okay. Now all run mode names should be separated by dot after config. Okay, remember. Now you have three folders which matches your run mode, but the best one that matches is this config.prod.author.vipin because your run modes are prod, vipin, and author. Okay. So here, this also matches, this also matches, this also matches, and this. All the four are matching. You can see this config.prod is also matching. But the best match folder is the first one that will be considered, and then the rest. Here, if I will create a configuration, see, you have a configuration. So how do you create a configuration? Remember, a configuration can be referred inside multiple services. So you create the configuration by the name of your service. So what is the name of your service? It is this package name and then the class name. It is Tojo Word Service. So what I will do is I will create an node whose type will be OSGi what is the name? Sorry, just a minute. What is this type? What is the primary type? It is Sling OSGi config. Sorry. So here I will create a node which is Sling OSGi config, and here I will give the name. So service dot Tojo word service. Okay. So here I created my configuration, and here I can give the value. What are the values? Values are these. URL. Let me give a URL. URL is, let's say this time it is Yahoo. Okay. And username is, say, Yahoo username. Okay. And password is, okay. So what I did is,
double Yahoo, like it came.
yeah, oh, sorry, I could, yeah. This is because of my browser. My browser is not able to open this properly, so that is I could not see it. So here also you can edit it like this. Here you will go just a value you can input on it as well. Okay. So here if I will save it, let me just write this floating. And here, now this one is the best one. Now if I will copy this and will create it inside the config.prod as well and paste it over there. And here I have, let's say this one is the values inside this is like prod username. Okay, so here instead of Yahoo, the best match I'm naming is Yahoo. Okay, prod. The run mode here is prod, and this is also prod. And let me just save it. And if I will go and refresh my page, you can see the Yahoo one is matching. Yahoo username, Yahoo password. Now, if I will remove this, if I delete this, so let me just rename it to something different so that it should not match. Let me put one. Now, which one will be matched? This one. If I place this, if I copy this, and if I copy it below this as well, let me just paste it. And this one is author prod. Okay, so let me give the values as author prod. This one is author prod. This one is also author prod. This one is also author prod. Okay. So let me just save it, and if I will refresh now, you tell me which one will be which one will get caught. This one, of course, will not match because the service name is not matching. So this either this one or this one. So of course, this one will get matched because this folder is the best matching run mode, because here two run modes are matching and here only one. So this one will get the preference.
Yeah.
Now, firstly, it will see whether the configuration sits below this folder because this one is the best matching, but the configuration doesn't sit. Then it's try to search for the next match, next best matching. In case if none of the matches, then it will go inside the config and we'll look over there. And if I will refresh over here, and you see author prod username, author prod pass. Okay. Okay. So here always what is the best practice is you create the configuration like the way I did. So here where you create the configurations. If I show you from the code base, inside the UI apps, SRC, and the GCR root, inside the app, you have the Tojo, and here you have all these folders. So here below basically you create the configuration depending upon different modes. So these are created in the form of XML, like these are the XMLs. And this is one XML. In the same way, you will also just copy paste and provide your own property name and the property value. And the best matching configuration, depending on the best match run mode folder name, will be referred or will get called. Okay.
Mhm.
Any questions, any doubts on this? So
No.
basically, how many time a question is being asked that okay, you have a scenario where you have to connect to some third party and has some API key and that and the URL and those like the credentials to connect to that API differs from prod to lower environment. So first is where would you keep that configuration and how would you read the configuration for different basically environment. So how do you solve this problem is basically what we saw now. The best place to keep this is inside the OSGi configuration so that an admin user can go inside the system console config manager, system console config manager, and there it can change at any point in time. Let's say consider if tomorrow the password gets changed or username gets changed, then they can change it and without deploying the code. However, you can still provide the default values for the configuration. Now, the second thing is how you made it, how you can call it. Then the answer would be then you have to start. Then basically you have to name different. You have to provide different names to your different environment. Like if there is a prod, then you provide a prod run mode, QA run mode, and then create the folders below your apps, your project hierarchy with the name config.run mode. The best patching folder name will be the one that will get a preference in case there is a configuration that is a sling OSGi configuration, use the sling OSGi configuration. Always the type should be sling OSGi config. If this file matches, then it will be the one. If the file matches, then that will be the one that will get called, but it depends upon the best matching run mode folder. If none of the folder has that, then it is the config folder from where it will get picked. Okay. So this is how you create OSG. This is the concept of OSG configurations in your AEM. Okay. Let me move to another topic that is similar to OSG that meets the use of OSG configuration, that is scheduler. Okay. Scheduler is nothing but say if I'm telling you about some of the backend things. I know you are more of a front end. You are more of a BA, but I think that would be good for you. Schedulers is already a scheduler. I'm not doing anything. I'm just telling you with this example. You see here what they have done is what is the purpose of a scheduler? So scheduler is something you want to schedule. Like say you want to run a nightly job every day. That there is a job, that there is a background work that should always get executed at a particular time at a particular date. Let's say you wanted you consider that you have some ATM locator, like our ICICI Bank website is there, and there is an ATM locator component. Now that ATM component locator that needs the location of the ATM. So what happens? You have created a separate API which provides you with the latest ATM detail. Like if some new ATM comes, then that API will provide you with the latest ATM details. Now in the AEM, what you want is you want to always hit the but solution is that whenever the component will be refreshed, you will call that API, and from the API you will get the results, and that you will show it on the page. But that is not good because every time from a component, if you will call a third-party API, that will consume a lot of time. So what a solution is considered in these case of scenarios is that you create a scheduler, and the scheduler can run on nightly basis at any point in time, and that time we define on the basis of this cron expression. So we provide a cron expression that actually helps us in telling when this scheduler will automatically run, or this scheduler is nothing but a Java class only. Okay. So this is simply a Java class which we say that it should execute at a particular time, at a particular date, or every day whenever we want. Here by using this cron expression, you understand what is cron expression?
Cron.
Yeah. Cron is a basic is a general concept. It's nothing related to AEM. Basically, cron helps you in, like, if you will search cron creation, cron. So just cron expression or cron maker, it will give you. Cron maker is simply that helps you in telling you about the basically, uh, see, it tells us about the time or at what particular time, at what particular date, when you want this a particular task to be executed. So there, these crons are being used. Cron maker is which helps you build cron expression. What is cron? Cron, you can just search. Um, cron is nothing but a expression of time. Here, this is an expression of time. If your application respect that expression of time, then it means that that application can run at that particular time, which that cron expression is indicating. So here, my cron expression, first it says it is second, then it says it is minute, then it's hours, then it's days, then it's weeks, and then it's something like month or year. It's like this. You can just search it on the net. So in the cron maker, we go. So it's like this. You see, first is minute, sorry, hourly. I think it's second, it's not minutes. Okay, it's minutes, hourly, daily, weekend, weekly, monthly, year. So here you can provide, like if you want to create any cron, let's say cron creation, cron creator. Hmm, format. So here these are the, yeah, here you see every second, every minute. So if you want a cron expression, like what does this says? Describe expression. So here it says this thing. Every 1 second starting at 00. If I say this thing, type expression. It says at every 1 minute, every 1 second. If I say, if I use, let's say this one, the one that we already have. Let's paste this one. Let's say what does this cron expression is saying. Okay. So if I will paste this describe expression, it is every 30 seconds starting at 00 second after the minute. Said every 30 second, what will happen is the scheduler will run. Now, again, if you will see to create this, you see this site is very useful in understanding cron, cronformatter.com. So our schedulers understands or obeys cron expression. So on the basis of this cron expression, this task or this basically you can say this Java file will be executed and it will execute or do the business logic that is written inside this Java class at this particular time. So here you see again we have the object class definition. Here what we did is instead of creating it as a separate class, what we did is we created within this class only. We created the scheduler within this class only because we and this is also service. You see at the rate component service is equal to the parent class name service. Even if you want, you can provide this class name as well. Okay. At the rate component here it says that it is again a service only. So scheduler here we call it as a scheduler, but it's nothing but a service. And we implemented it with the Runnable interface. If you know about Runnable is, I will tell you about what it is. Runnable. Do you know? Like, when do we use Runnable? When we implement a class with a Runnable? No. So what happens? See, your main thread is executing. Like you see, your users are landing on the site and they visit the site, and behind the scene, your server, AEM server, allocates a CPU memory or thread or whatever it is. Like they allocate for the execution of a user, they allocate the threads or CPU or whatever is needed for the execution for that user. Now, when we implement the class with the enable interface, what happens? It's separate memory and a separate thread, a separate CPU threads get allocated to this class as well. So what will happen? This class will work independent of the main thread that is serving the end user. So there will be a main thread that will be serving the end user need, and there will be separate thread that will get created that will be used for running this class. By this way, your main thread is running parallelly, your this thread is also running. It's not that if we are running running the scheduler, then it will hamper the performance of end user. No, your end user is running on a separate thread, and this is running on a separate thread. Okay, so that is why what we do is, so let's say like there are many situations you would have come across in your coding, where what you have to do is you have to send a mail. But during sending a mail, you want sending the mail as an asynchronous operation and not synchronous. That you should not wait for the mail to send, then only you should then only you should, like, let's say you have a payment thing. Okay, before the payment you want to send a mail. Like, let's say your details are getting saved into database, and then your payment is getting initiated. Okay, now once your details get saved into database, you have to send a mail to the end user that okay, your details have been saved with us, and then you have to initiate the payment process. Now if you if the now the first step is saving the details in the database, second is sending the mail, third is initiating the payment process. Okay. Now, if you make it a synchronous process, then what will happen? You will save the details in the database. Then you will send the mail. Once you see that, okay, the mail has been sent, then only you initiate the payment process. But this is not good. So what you do is, basically you save it in the database and you make a asynchronous process in Java. Basically, I'm telling you, in all other application, on all other languages also, you do it in this way only. And you create an asynchronous task, basically, which will run parallelly to the main thread. So parallelly, your task for sending the mail will be will get executed, and you will parallelly start with the payment process. So your main thread will be taking care of the saving that after saving the data in the database. Your main thread will be taking care of payment process, initiating the payment process, and parallelly you will create another thread that will send the mail to that user. So to initiate a parallel thread, what you use is, in Java, basically you create a separate thread by using the runnable interface. You implement any class with runnable interface, and that will make a separate thread for that class. So if you in .NET Word also, there would be some like threads, concept of threads, like along with the main thread you want to execute a new thread. So how you execute that is by using in Java you use the runnable interface. Here for the schedulers also we want it in this way, because the schedulers we wanted execution to be parallel to the main user's execution. So that main thread should continue doing its working, and our thread also, the scheduler thread also. And here we created an OSGi configuration. If you want, we can do it in a separate class as well. But here we are doing it in the same class, because we know that okay, this service has to be used within this configuration has to be used within this schedule. Okay. If I go below here again, if you will see inside the add activate, I named it as activate, and here I received the object for this config. Here I named it as config. In the here you see here I've named it as config. In my case, I named it as Jojo config. So that is why in my service I was receiving it as Jojo config. So in this case, they named it this as config. So that is why they're receiving it as config, and they received like here. Now the important thing is that on cron expression, property name should always be scheduler underscore expression. So this is important. So here this property is important because this is showing, because this tells this property value is the cron expression. And here we said scheduler content is equal to false. What does this mean is, consider I have this 30, here is the 30 second of time. Let's say if the thread A for this scheduler is running. Now this thread doesn't complete, and behind the scene a new thread after 30 seconds started. Now that thread will not start till the time my previous thread doesn't complete if I have provided concurrent is equal to false. If I provided concurrent is equal to true, then it doesn't matter. The new thread will also get started. Okay. So this thing has to be used carefully. If you want serial execution, sequence execution or serial execution of your thread for your scheduler. Here I named it as a simple, like, let me, here is let me name it as Tojo. Okay, schedule task, and let me say it should run every second. Okay, let me say it should run every second, and what it should do is it should read the values. Let me now you see this is also now this is also a service only because it is a @ component. Now I told you to call a service from another service. What do you use? What annotation do you use? To call a service from another service, like I have my this Tojo service, Tojo word service. You refer to use the service inside my this service. What would you use? @ reference annotation. @ reference annotation, and here I can use private Tojo word service, and here is my this Tojo word service. Now let me call some method. Let's say let me call some method over here. Okay. In the run method, I am putting some logger. Let me say I am putting some debug log. Let me say info. I will tell you about these logs. Okay. Tojo. Okay. And let me say here inside the run method, all the execution will happen. So let me say that for scheduler, we cannot return anything back to front end because scheduler is something that run behind the scene. Okay. So here, if I will say, I will call this project word service and the method name that is get API details. Okay, I'm calling the same method name, and I received the response over here API, and this API, let me call it over here, is now running with the parameter now running with API details as okay. And here, let me provide the API details. So if I will, let me just, and we will see in the log file, I will also now with this, let me just firstly build this. Okay. Now what I'm doing is I'm just printing the logs in my log file. So whatever I am here, I called my service. Here I referred my service within another service. This is a scheduler, but this is a service only. Okay. Now here I use @ reference annotation, and within this service I call this method API details API, and that's what I printed inside my logger.info. Now to see where your logs get printed, the important thing is if you will go inside the system console. Sling, here you have the log support. Either you can go and look your logs from here. You see there are so many log files. All your logs actually gets printed inside the error.log. And let us see if the code is built. Yes, the code is built. And if I will go over here and I will go to the error log here, let me go to the bottom. Okay, you see Tojo simple schedule task is now running with the API details as this. You can see this. Now the important thing is you see it is running every second. Every second. And how do I see the logs? The important okay, let me just again show it to you. So I go to this, but this is not the suggested way. Log support, Sling log support. The best way is that inside the CRX quick start, you have so many folders. I told you inside the repository folder, do not change anything because all your repository, all your repositories, but there is a log folder also, which is very useful. I will tell you about this whole log folder tomorrow, what on the purpose of each and every log. But here you also have your error log, which actually gives all your application specific log. Means all the execution, all your application specific logs are logged over here. You can see your scheduled task is now running with this, and it is running continuously every second because we change the timing over here to 1 second. Okay, and also we made this as a configuration, my parameter, and here we are printing this. Here we are printing this as well, my parameter. You see. Now, if I will go to your this over here, OSGi and configuration, because we made this as an OSGi configuration. You saw this is an OSGi configuration. Again, object class definition. What is the name? It is Tojo scheduled task. So if I will search it by this name, I should find it over here. You see, Tojo scheduled task. And if I provide, here is the cron expression, and here let me provide a name. Tojo params. Okay, and let me just save it. And if I will go, and here you see your error logs will be refreshed and it is running continuously. And if I will go to the bottom, you see now it also printed my param as well. You see this param is also getting printed with value Tojo param, and also API details as author prod, author username, author password. If I go and change it over here, author prod here, if I change anything like author prod 11, author this password also, and let me input it over here, and this also 11, and I will save it and just let this get refreshed. And if I will go to the bottom, so you see these details are also refreshed. This is a scheduled task which is automatically running every second here based on this cron expression. You can decide when it should run, and that you can, of course, you can make the cron expression by using this cron formatter. And your scheduler respects your cron expression, but conditionally, your name of this property should be scheduled the expression, and it should implement the runnable interface. The RESTful is service. Till this point, it was a service only, but you implemented it with the runnable interface and you make it a OSGi configuration with a validity. It made it a scheduler. It converted this service into a scheduler. And you can refer, since it's a service, so you can refer another service by using @reference notation. To refer the service within the Sling model, you used @ what annotation did you use? @ OSGi service. Here, if I will go, so see, @OSGi service I use to refer my service inside a Sling model. But you will use to refer a service from another service, you will use @reference. Here I use @reference. And inside the run method, you will write all your execution. All the execution backend. Now you can connect the third party from here, or you can call another service that will connect to the third party. Whatever you want to do, you will do it inside the run method. And this run method is defined, declared inside the runnable interface. So this is our runnable, which helps in making this class as a separate thread. And here it provides a run method where you will write all your execution.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.